And welcome to Grumpy Old Men. How's your coffee?
It's very good.
This is the coffee that he gave to you that should have been given to me.
I've still got some. Flavio, yes. And I very much appreciate it. I've been drinking it. Thank you, Flavio.
Where's Flavio from?
I wish you hadn't asked me that. It starts with an M. He has an ice cream store in Kamala, and I'm so embarrassed.
Kamala.
I cut this part out. Yeah.
Okay. No, I'm not going to.
Okay.
So welcome to, did I say Grumpy Old Men? And this is Steve Ross.
Hi.
And you know who I am. Don't
Tim
you know
Newton.
who I am?
This is Tim Newton.
Thank you very much.
The Tim Newton.
Thank
Except
heavens.
no substitute.
There's only one. Or as my mother used to call me, Timothy. Now, these are questions that have come from our viewer. And
Love that guy. Love that guy.
and Kel Giggs. Kel, apparently a bit of a fan of yours?
Well, of ours, I think. Mr. Giggs does comment complimentary things, and I appreciate them very much.
And we've got the duck here as well.
Yes.
So thank you for all the people that wrote in. And I think I'll sort of leave that as a bit of an open channel that people can just send us questions and ask us because heavens knows we don't know what we're going to talk about each week. So we're happy to... You throw something in the middle and we'll comment about it.
Do our work for us.
So if you... Yes.
May I just point out, by the way, we have new wall decor in honor of
yes.
Tim. Now we have a turtle. Whoops. A turtle for Steve. This is also a turtle. And now we have a duck.
A turtle in a pear tree. No, that's a partridge in a pear tree.
Yeah.
We've got the yellow duck. This is exactly the same yellow duck as in my pool. And the same yellow ducks that were used during the protests of 2020 and 2021. And do you know why they were used, the yellow ducks?
Practically to keep the water cannons at
Yes.
bay.
Yeah.
There is a symbolism that perhaps we don't. This is not a serious program, and the symbolism of the color yellow and the duck. We don't have to touch.
Okay. You're right. You've said enough.
Yes.
But yes, they were used to basically defend the protests against the water cannons, which were allegedly laced with things that
Various
irritated their eyes.
caustic chemicals. Yeah.
Anyway, Kel, by the way, thanks for dropping in. Would you please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already? We're not going to send you rude emails. You don't have to... Steve won't be talking to you or calling you up or anything unless he wants to sell you a GT300.
Yes.
How are you going with orders, by the way? I think it's going to be big.
I need to get the Thai government interested because otherwise nobody would be dumb enough to buy those.
Oh, whoa, right. So Kel says, if you were able to change only one thing in your life, past or present, what would it be? So while you're thinking about yours, I'm also thinking about what I would change. Great preparation for the program. Have you got an answer? If you were able to change...
Eustachian tubes.
Yes, how's it going, by the way, this week? How's it going, Steve?
It's fine, thank you. I will persevere. I will endure. If this is the cross God has given me to bear, I will bear it stoically and with good heart.
Why don't you go to the hospital and get them to check it out?
I worked in hospitals for 20 years. You think I haven't been to a dozen ENTs about this thing? Surgery is the only solution the American medical system wants to offer. And please don't in the comment section, the Valsalva maneuver. I do that every week here, 30 times the Valsalva maneuver.
Why don't you just
don't recognize
just go down to your nearest... Do you have health insurance?
No.
Okay, right.
No, I'm said
Well,
that
go to a
before.
public hospital and it would only cost 500 baht to check you out. And they might have a magic
I don't need
cure.
to be checked out. Like I said, I've been seen by a dozen ENTs.
But you're a little bit older now. Something might have changed.
No, I don't think so. Before I left work.
Hang on, I've got a pen here. Let me just poke it in there. And...
Well, that I have had that impulse because it's very, very.
So I've got a pen here, Steve.
Anyway, that is the one thing. Not my disastrous marriage, not my decision to take a theater degree as an undergraduate, not any of the terrible economic decisions that I've made in my life. What I would change would be this eustachian tube.
Okay. So I'm thinking about what... Really, is that the one thing you'd change? You got no regrets in your past?
I've got 1,000 regrets, but
you
not
could have taken a
anything.
left-hand turn rather than a right-hand turn?
I don't know, man. If I say, then somebody's going to come in the comment section and say, all Steve does is talk about himself. So.
Well, I mean, the question is directed to us both personally, so you're absolutely well entitled to speak about yourself.
Thank you.
You can come back with another answer if you want.
No,
I'm trying to think of things I would have changed. I have been very, very, if I touch wood, it's going to rock the table, but I will. I'm not suspicious, but I do that. Is this Laminex or is it wood?
I think it's solid wood.
I think it's wood.
This is a beautiful piece of furniture that was gifted to me when I rented this apartment. Came with furniture. And
I probably wouldn't have got involved with a particular news venture about 2000 and I wouldn't have done that. So that just a tad of regret on that one. Wasted 4 or 5 years. But at the same time, see, every time you
is that the newspaper I helped launch? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, you were there years and years and years before.
Yeah, first edition.
Yes, first edition.
I was helping John edit it.
1993 that started.
Yeah,
I think
2 or 3. Yeah. Oh, it began. John McGee took me and my wife out.
Hi, John.
Hi, John. Took me and my wife out to dinner at a place called Latitude 8 in Phuket, and he said, "Hi, I've been reading you in Phuket Magazine. My name's John McGee. I'm going to launch a small town newspaper here, and it's going to be the best small town newspaper in Asia, and I want you to write for me." And we had dinner, and on the way home, my wife asked me, "Are you going to sell him stories?" And I said, "Well, for a couple months, then he'll be out of business, but I'm going to sell him as many stories as I can for a couple months."
23 years later.
Yeah. John McGee, I'll tell you what, that guy's a genius. And this is why John McGee lives with a pool and Steve Ross lives in an old sushi restaurant. Because I could not see the opportunity that was literally laid on the table in front of me at dinner.
Let me say, although you live a fairly inexpensive life, a lot of people would pay thousands and thousands of dollars for this view.
Yes.
As I look out I'll do a cutaway perhaps later, and you'll see this beautiful view that is like 80 meters away is the Andaman Sea.
Yeah.
You're pretty lucky.
I'm very lucky, and I'm aware of that every single day. John McGee was brilliant and careful and lucky.
And got out of newspapers at the right time.
He certainly did. Guys that got the Midas touch, tell you what.
And the other thing I think I probably would have not done is stop touching the table, the timber table, solid timber table. I wouldn't have got into a yacht. Now, my father introduced me to sailing at a very young age and thought it was a really good idea to get young Timothy out on the water.
Toughen him up.
And I'm sure in later years my father regretted it when I kept on wanting bigger and bigger yachts. And then I regretted it as my father died and passed on my desire for bigger and bigger yachts. The number of literally millions of dollars that I think I've spent on yachts over the years, and they are like standing under a cold shower ripping up $100 notes, or became $1,000 notes later in my life. So I may not, if there's one thing you'd like to change, I probably would have said, "Oh, Dad, I'll pass on that. I'll take up ballet or something instead."
I did ballet for a year. Ballet is great.
Well, you got the legs for it.
I have never, exactly. Thank you.
Tall.
I am tall and lanky. I want to make note that I have never in my life said the sentence, "I wanted a bigger yacht." So that's out there. Never in my life.
So, yeah, I did. And I lost. One of the things that made me sort of stay here in Thailand is I lost all my money on a boat business. Because I made that's another mistake that I can warn you about, is I invested in my passion. Keep your passions and your business separate. I made that mistake. So there you go, Kel. I think we've answered that pretty well.
And
anything else you want to throw in there?
Thank you for suggesting, Kel.
So nothing about your prostate or anything you want to mention?
No.
Okay. How's your prostate, by the way?
It's gone.
It's not there.
It's gone.
It's
yeah.
gone.
It is a thimble full of ash at the moment.
Whew. So another question from Arthur Lee. Hello, Arthur. Nice to have you with us. And he said, which group of expats are the least grumpy? So just imagine there are lots of I think the actual definition of the word expat is traitor, an expatriate. So, but these days we just use the word like we're a non-immigrant, we're an immigrant, we're an expat, we're foreigners living in another country, and the highest number of expats in Thailand are
the highest number of expats in Thailand.
Which nationality?
Indians?
No.
Persians? Malay?
Did you say Persians?
Yeah. Malay?
What's a Persian?
An Iranian.
Okay. Strictly.
Iraq. The prime ministers in Ayutthaya were generations of Persians.
Okay.
The Thais have always imported their clerical help.
No, Japanese.
Oh, really? Okay.
Tong law. Everywhere.
Huh.
Second highest number? Filipinos.
Oh, that makes sense.
I would say probably number one would be Burmese, but
there you go.
they're just not.
They're not counted.
Sort of under the radar.
May I say, I do not think expatriate has ever meant a traitor, and I'll tell you a story. I at one point a social worker who was a lawyer for the city of Iowa City came to my home. I was fighting my ex-wife for custody of the children, and he came to my home for a surprise inspection. And he went around, he looked in the refrigerator, he looked in the basement, and then he wrote a 5-page report to the court about what kind of father Steve Ross is. And he said, and I quote, "The father describes himself as an ex-patriot, OT, someone who used to be a patriot but is no longer. That means traitor." No, I said to him, I was an expatriate in Thailand for 7 years. Expatriate.
Okay.
One word, ATE.
ATE.
Expatriate. One who simply lives outside of his country of birth. So I don't think that expat was ever derogatory like that.
So I got my spelling wrong. Somebody wrote to me the other day and said, "You're an expatriate. You're a traitor." I thought,
Oh, fuck you. Yeah.
So, okay. So, to the question from Arthur Lee. We'll get to it, Arthur. He's sitting there.
Sorry, Arthur.
He's just poised.
Sorry, dude. Sorry.
He's saying, "I want to go to the toilet, but I can't because they haven't answered my question." Because Steve's swearing.
Told you not to drink all that coffee, dude.
So, which group of expats are the least grumpy?
I don't know. I have very little experience because I don't hang out with people. I stay alone if I can. But in my experience, Aussies are a very happy-go-lucky, laid-back, casual kind of people. Not the ones who go nuts. And
by the way, the next 5 minutes is brought to you by typecast.com.
Yeah. All right. I'm sorry you asked. Other than that, I really have no database from which to answer this question. I'm sorry, Arthur.
So the news has been littered this week by some Australians who went slightly off the wall. Interestingly, there was an Italian who threw a refrigerator out of his apartment in Pattaya.
Yeah.
And he told the police, "I was high on marijuana." And that was the quote from him, the user. Yeah. And everybody's going in the comment section, "Oh, it's not the weed, it's not that, he must have been taking something else." He's so defensive about it. Settle down, guys. Settle down. So you think Australians are the least grumpy?
As I said, I don't have a clue. I'm sorry, Arthur. I don't know how to answer this. I don't hang out with people. I don't, and I certainly...
His back's turned to me again, so he just doesn't like people.
You are so insecure. Okay, there we are.
Don't touch the table.
This is like school.
Yes.
I never succeeded at school. I'm sorry, Arthur. I don't know. I think there is... There's two ways to go. If you're here long term, either you can be Paul Wallace and happy all the time. Paul said in the interview the other week, he said, "I can't remember the last time I was happy." No, I'm sorry. The last time I was unhappy. Guy's been in Thailand 38 years. He cannot remember the last time he was unhappy. You either go that direction or you're that bitter, angry guy who sits in one air-conditioned room and watches YouTube all day and hates his wife's family and hates the people in the village and hates the government and hates Thailand, but he's invested everything here and he's got to stay here. So you're either, there's very few of us in the middle. You're either in that honeymoon phase or you're, which can last for decades, or you're pissed off and angry all the time.
I would say that It really depends. I don't think there's a nationality that is less grumpy. I think that it's individuals that can be grumpy or not.
Yeah.
I've always said the most important thing, if you're going to come to Thailand, is do your homework, get your ducks in a row, make sure you've got good health insurance, make sure you've got something to do, and you need to work on your happiness. And I think some people are just born grumpy and other people are lucky enough to sort of be born happy. I just don't think there is actually an answer for that. So if he wants me to sort of highlight one particular nationality, I can't do that either.
No.
I would just say there are grumpy people and there are happier people.
Yeah. And there are people who step off the plane and assume, now I'm going to be happy. I have dreamed of coming to Thailand. I've read about Thailand. I've seen the YouTube videos. If I can get to Thailand, I will be happy. And they step off the plane, and a week later, they're just as miserable as they were at home. And then they get really angry about that. They feel like they've been cheated, and they get angrier and angrier and pissed off and pissed off.
Well, there are that group of people, certainly, that come here, well, with the intention of perhaps having a good time, but they literally spend all their time, and social media just enables them, that they just spend their whole time comparing everything in Thailand with their home. Yeah. Now, you could spend just as much time comparing the things in Thailand that are better than your home, but no. They like to point out the things that they don't like, that they compare to the things they do like in their home country. If you do that, and I used to do it with prices. I used to be saying, I could get that in Australia cheaper, with that accent.
That's his real voice, folks.
After about 6 months, I stopped doing that because it's just fruitless.
Yeah.
It's a different economy, totally different economy. So I think we've diverged a bit from the original question.
And thank you
Sorry,
for the question, Arthur.
Thank you, even though we didn't really answer it for you. Got the next one. This is from Scotty G.
Scotty, yo, G-man, what's up?
Right, good.
I am so street.
Which accent is that?
That's an American urban Steve probably should not do that in public accent.
He's a US cover musician. So he plays cover music in where would he be playing and what would he be playing?
Well, cruise ships, I suppose.
Cruise ships.
Soft rock, 80s rock, 70s rock on cruise ships.
A few Kenny G ballads.
Yeah.
He's a cover music. Can you do that business? I've not written down the actual thing, but generally he was saying, can he come to Thailand and be a cover musician and make a living out of it? So neither of us have worked in the music industry here in Thailand. However, heavens knows, I've seen enough cover musicians.
Yeah.
A lot of them Thai. I love them singing
Filipino.
Western songs.
Yeah.
The best ones, yes, are the Filipinos.
Yeah.
Genetically, I don't know. They seem to just have great voices.
And they work cheap. And I think that's, coming and doing in Thailand what you did at home, I think, you see these questions all the time on the fora. I'm an architect. How hard is it to be an architect in Thailand? I'm a news reporter. How hard is it to be a news reporter in Thailand?
Very hard.
It's really, really hard to be anything but a tourist here or a retiree. I mean, to work in any way here,
that's the truth.
You have to have the job before you come because the organization has to give you your visa, your work permit, a place to live. They have to help you while you're trying to get settled. I mean, it's, I think... And again, in music, anything in the arts, you're competing with Filipinos and Nepalese.
And some occupations you can't do by law.
They're like
you can't drive taxis.
Yeah, you can't grow rice. You cannot farm rice or rambutan or banana or coconut. There's a million. You cannot work on movie crews. I worked on 2 movies in Thailand. And it was all Thai crew, and then the skeleton department heads that were brought from the UK and from the States.
What role were you fulfilling when you were working on the movies?
I was the
your props expertise.
What's called the lead man? Yeah, it's called the lead man. We are the set dressing.
The lead
crew.
man, Tom Cruise.
In the crew, the lead man is the head of the traveling props department. We go a day ahead and a day behind the shooting schedule, setting up and dressing tomorrow's set, wrapping and striking yesterday's set. So we're never on the set when the camera is there, but we're always a day ahead and a day behind the crew. And we have a swing truck, what's the big 10-wheel truck, and about 8 guys who can move furniture. And that's what you do. You hang drapes, you hang pictures on the wall, you lay carpet, you lay tile, linoleum, and mostly you carry heavy things around. And that's what I did. Heaven and Earth was one picture I worked for 6 months on. And Mortal Kombat, the very first video game movie, was shot in Thailand, Mortal Kombat. And I was the lead man on Mortal Kombat, but only for one set for 2 weeks.
Again, when you say lead man, you're not the main actor. You're
the lead man. The lead man is not called the lead man. He's called, if anything, the lead, I suppose. But that's in cast. That's talent. That's nothing to do with the crew. As lead man, I would have never been where the camera was, so I didn't meet any of the actors on that movie. I met Tommy Lee Jones once, but that
Tell
was
us the conversation.
Oh, Tommy Lee Jones! I was dressing.
Get me a coffee.
The movie was Heaven and Earth. It's a Vietnam War movie, and I was dressing a tank with this old French tank. I don't know how they got it to Thailand, but it's a real, 50-year-old French tank. And I was dressing it. It came without anything on the outside, so I was hanging camo netting and shovels and crowbars and 5-gallon jerry cans of gasoline and shit all over the outside of this tank. And Tommy Lee Jones was traveling by on his way to the set, and he stopped his car to come look at my tank. And he just walked around it a couple times while I was up on it, hanging stuff and dressing it. And I don't remember specifically what was said, but I've had a million casual conversations like that with actors through the years.
Another movie about Vietnam that was made in Thailand is...
Casualties of War, the Dumbo Drop.
Robin Williams.
Robin Williams, Good Morning Vietnam.
Yes.
In downtown Phuket. Yeah.
And there is currently a movie on Netflix at the moment called Fast and Furious 9. Yeah. How they ever got to 9,
Explain
I have no idea.
Somebody explain that.
When they end up in space. But they do. But the whole opening half hour is made in Krabi. Oh. I'm sorry about this T-shirt, by the way. I picked up the wrong shirt. It's, I don't know, for somebody else in our house that must be much bigger than me.
Let's start over.
Why?
Because I can't stand that shirt, dude. It makes you look sloppy. Who's going to watch this with you wearing that shirt?
I'm trying to look tough, all right?
It's working.
So, since we're talking about movies, and I don't really know what got us onto this conversation, but this is like a pre-taping conversation that ends up on the program, and I don't know why... Oh, you said something like, now that's a knife.
Oh, yeah.
And you were suddenly quoting Crocodile Dundee.
Mm-hmm. The first one.
Crocodile Dundee was a movie made by Australians, starring an Australian called Paul Hogan, and the lead actress was American because you had to have an American.
And she took him away from his wife, and all Australia hated her for that.
It was horrifying.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And her career ended like that.
To list the number of American films that have done well in Australia would be an infinitely long list. But the number of Australian movies that have done well in America is a much shorter list. And I thought I'd be interested to hear about the cultural impact that some of those may have had. Cultural impact might be going a bit too far. Anyway, Crocodile Dundee. How did Americans take the guy fighting alligators from the outback? How did they cope with that? Could they understand his accent?
Oh, yeah. The
Now
Australian
that's a
accent.
knife.
Yeah, now that's a knife. I remember because I worked on Crocodile Dundee too. So that period, the 80s, was when I was working in the film industry in New York City. And if you ever see the sequel, the very first set in the movie is a bathroom, and I did that bathroom. That's Steve's bathroom. All of it. It's just a shell of plywood on a sage, and I hung the curtains, I put the glass brick, I plumbed the sink, plumbed the toilet.
Why didn't they actually just go into a bathroom that was already built?
Because you can't fit a movie crew in a bathroom. You
just need a cameraman and a sound guy. That's all you need.
Think that's a crew?
Yeah,
that's not a crew. Yeah, you got to talk to the union hall.
I could just take my iPhone and...
Well, kids do that now. Yeah, and the idea of film unions, the writers are on strike. The movie writers are on strike in America
because they're scared that ChatGPT will do a better job than...
Well, also they've been getting a raw deal for 10 years. It's I believe in collective bargaining. But Crocodile Dundee, the fact that, first of all, Paul Hogan's a very engaging actor, or he was in the 80s. He's very funny. It was a very funny script. Americans have always been interested in Australia. Australia and Canada fascinate Americans because that's sort of like us, but with a different history. You guys are you speak the same language we do. You read the same books that you watch the same movies we do, and yet you're different from us. So Americans have always been fascinated.
What's the population of Australia?
Not a clue. 16, 17?
Oh, it's 25 odd.
25 odd people.
Odd being the right.
Yeah, and 30 kangaroos. But at any rate, it's just a very well-made movie, the first one, and the fact that he's exploring New York City, it lets us step back and look at ourselves through somebody else's eyes, and that's always exciting to do.
It was very successful. I think Australians were very surprised that the Americans gravitated towards it and film theaters.
It's a good movie, and
Made
again, Paul Hogan's a very engaging actor.
Made him very wealthy.
Yeah, good for him.
So I think he's still around.
He wrote it, didn't he? He wrote that.
He wrote it, and a couple of sidekicks. I'm trying to remember the director. He was also well connected, and they were all a bit of a team. He started life. His first job was
painting
the
Sydney Bridge.
Painting the Sydney Harbour Bridge.
Yeah, I remember that. That was in all the publicity for the movie. Yeah.
It's one of those
and
stories.
You can still, I'm sure on YouTube, you can find him doing his stand-up. Like he went to an open mic one night with his buddies from the rig, and still in his work clothes and his paint-spattered shoes, and he got up and he told some jokes. And then he went, from club to club and then became this star. And I think you can still find all that on YouTube. You
sure,
can find
plenty of
stuff.
Paul Hogan on YouTube.
And he's very, very engaging, a very natural, unschooled performer. And very engaging.
And another performer who started in Australia, and a series of movies that I liked, and this was a young Mel Gibson, and the first Mad Max movie, which I think was called The Road Warrior in the United States.
Yeah. It has since, for re-release, been retitled, but yeah, the first one was The Road Warrior.
Very raw, made in the late 1970s,
I think.
and made in my backyard out the back blocks of... Thank you. Made in the back blocks of
This is a wonderful place to
Yarraville.
live. But
well, you get, one of those every 2 hours.
Yeah.
Plus the odd election thing. You'll miss those election trucks driving past.
No, I won't.
Company. People I can talk to. Oh, there he goes.
It's interesting. I just on that note, I recently reread a book called Bangkok Nights by Colin Pipprell, who was a dear old friend of mine, and I miss him terribly. And I read Bangkok Nights, and it's all conversations in bars in Bangkok. And throughout that book, he just gets irate about the cassette trucks, the trucks that used to sell cassette tapes of music, and they would play very loudly. They'd drive up and down the sois and play music very loudly. And Colin was just irate and furious about these trucks, and how dare they come and they play this loud music in my... Well, you don't see trucks like that selling music in Bangkok anymore. But people, I'm sure Colin would have found something else to be pissed off about.
Yeah, some people just like being pissed off.
Yeah. So when you say, I'll miss these sound trucks, well, I don't know if Colin even noticed when they disappeared. I don't know. But one thing about living here is on the road, on the beach road, all kind of vendors go up and down selling ice cream and fresh fruit and fish and everything else, because this is very popular with Thai.
Fabulous.
Yeah, and so I can sit here, and they each have a signature sound, right? The ice cream lady is ding 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 ding.
How is she?
Ding 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 ding. Yeah, that's the ice cream, and you can get it in a piece of white bread, a piece of Wonder Bread, and that. Who knew that would be so delicious with peanuts on top and those
maybe
weird
toasted
little jellies? No, they don't.
No.
They don't toast. They have no power. It's just a piece of plain raw white.
Don't they call that mochi or something in Korea?
I think that's
mochi?
the ice cream. I think mochi is the Japanese, what is it, soy-based ice cream or something. It's my kids used to eat that all the time.
I have to say, after living here many, many years, I love most things Thailand. Otherwise, I wouldn't live here.
Yeah.
I love Thai food, but they can't do desserts.
No.
That they, for whatever reason, the whole idea of what a dessert is has bypassed the Thai culinary culture. Rather than having apple pie with some ice cream, they have pink goo with black
Dots.
black bulbs, little grape. Oh, they're like beans or something. Oh,
But I want to make clear there are people who comment, they just read the title of this show, Grumpy Old Men, and then they comment, well, Steve, if you don't like it here, why don't you leave? Dude, I love it here. I dreamed for 25 years of coming back to Thailand. I've been here 10 months. I have been blissfully happy every single day of that. Watch the video before you comment, all right?
Well, yes, we do call the program Grumpy Old Men. But we're not that grumpy, I'll admit.
It's irony.
Sometimes, I think if we called it Happy Mature Gentlemen, nobody would watch.
Yeah.
Right?
Happy to be in Thailand with
Yes.
Tim and Steve.
So what did you think about the Mad Max movies? I really loved them.
Yeah,
And
I do too.
how do they sort of translate in the American audience?
Well, the whole genre of post-apocalyptic science fiction I enjoy very much. The first movie, Mel Gibson, when he still had an Aussie accent, that guy is engaging and handsome and a fair, again, unschooled performer. And the stunts done, for 35 cents, this stuntman will flip your car and risk his life for 35. I mean, it was made on a shoestring. It was made for pennies. And it's just thick with tension and drama. The others were not bad.
Visceral.
And by the time you get to Tina Turner, playing the villain. I mean, my God, we've just entered this fantasy land that has no relation to the first movie.
No.
It's a sequel that does not relate.
Had a great theme song, though. We don't need another hero.
Yeah, we don't need another hero. But here's Mel Gibson. And then this last one with Charlize Theron playing the Mel Gibson role.
Couldn't Mel turned up and just done a cameo in that?
I think probably he asked for too much money. I think because the villain in the Charlize Theron is the same actor who played the villain in the first Mad Max movie. He's covered his whole face like Bane. Like Bane. He's covered his whole face, and he talks like this. But that is the actor. He must have been pushing 70 when he did the last one. But they brought back that same actor to play the villain. They could have put Mel in there, playing guitar, shooting flames off the front of a semi-truck. But no, I think probably he said, I
would have watched that.
Yeah. Or I want you to bring me back as the hero. No,
Sure.
We've got Charlize with a metal arm. We don't need you.
But I really enjoyed the first two. Were great. Then they got a bit silly, but we still went and watched them.
Yeah.
Now, a completely different movie that I was really surprised that it sort of made it in America, given the aversion of some of the religious right to men that wear skirts. But Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, I think it did pretty well in the UK as well. Priscilla, Queen of the Desert was another very original sort of Australian film that was very Australian and...
at the same time, not so much. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a peculiar film, but it was much loved.
Yeah.
Even better than the film was the stage show. It still makes reappearances from time to time. The stage version was just joyous. And they sort of brought in a whole lot of, sort of jukebox music of favourite songs, I think a few ABBA songs and stuff. But Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. Original. Why did Americans like that?
Well,
Men
other
wearing
than
skirts, I wouldn't have thought that it would have done so well.
Other than the fact that it's just a very well-made movie, and again, made on pennies in the Outback, with relatively unknown actors, one of whom would go on to play King of the Elves in Lord of the Rings. What's his name? The guy who was the Kurt Russell role in the original.
Oh, Terrence Stamp.
Yes, that actor is it Terrence Stamp? Yeah, that actor is the King of the Elves in Lord of the Rings. He is Elrond, King of the Elves.
We're not professional movie reviewers. We should say that. We're just sort of speaking from the heart.
Yeah, speaking from the heart. I think it may also... What was the date of that movie? That was the 80s, wasn't it?
Priscilla, my phone is shooting the program, so I can't really use it.
Yeah, I think that was the 80s as well. And America was coming to terms with alternate lifestyles, I think, and alternate gender identities at that time. And it's a very, very funny movie. And then they remade it, of course, in America as To Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar, which is the most unwieldy and
Yes, I never figured out what the name is. Kurt Russell was the head.
Well, it's the inscription. There's a prop, and I love movies about props. There's a prop in that movie, which is an autographed publicity photo by Julie Newmar. When she was
Who's Julie Newmar?
She was one of the women who played Catwoman on the Batman TV show.
Yes, of course.
And she was a sex symbol of the 50s and 60s. And so one of these drag queens, has this autographed 8x10 glossy, which is autographed to Wong Fu. Thanks for everything, Julie Newmar. And Wong Fu was supposedly a hair and makeup guy on some movie, and this drag queen bought this in a movie memorabilia sale, and it's his most cherished, prized possession. And it's a terrible title for a movie, but John Leguizamo, Kurt Russell, it's a fantastic remake, which is very hard to do. But yeah, it certainly caught the American audience, or a certain, segment, the non-MAGA segment of the American audience, and which
Tucker Carlson didn't like it.
No, Tucker would not have liked it. No, or we don't know if he would have or would not, but he would have on air said whatever his audience wanted him to say about that movie.
I think Tucker's the type that might have put a frock on in the privacy of his own room.
Well, he's
that sort of person.
He's compensating for something. Yeah, he's insecure about something.
The best line in Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, something about a cock in a frock on a rock. Anyway,
don't know it. Sounds like Doggerel.
They're talking about Ayers Rock, because they end up in Alice Springs in the middle of Australia. Anyway, there you go.
A town called Alice.
You cited, sorry, this has become a movie review show. You cited sort of a quiet, simple little Australian movie from a book called Picnic at Hanging Rock. And you mentioned this as an Australian movie that you liked. Have you seen Picnic at Hanging Rock? I don't think many people did.
No, I saw it at university, which would have been 1976. So my memory of it is fuzzy, except that I did like it, and it was shown I was an art major my first year, and it was shown in an art class, cinema as art. And so this was we watched a movie every week for whatever the 13 weeks of a semester. So this would have been 13 movies I watched in a lecture hall with 300 other students. But it was selected as an art film. It was
a bit of an art film, yes.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people would have found it a bit sort of ponderous.
It was slow, I remember that, but the actors, who were, for the most part, young women, if I'm remembering correctly.
Ah, right.
Yeah, they were good. They were, again, good, unschooled.
It's quite a sexy movie, those sort of women in the long white frocks making their way up this mysterious rock.
It's a period piece. Yeah.
It certainly is.
And what was the other one? Beautiful Creatures? The one about the girl who talks her best friend into killing her mother. What was it? That was a
The Sound of Music?
No, it was called Beautiful Creatures, Beautiful Monsters, something like that.
The Terminator?
But it was a true story of two teenage girls who, out of boredom, beat one of their mothers to death with a sock full of bricks.
Oh, it sounds very Australian.
Yeah. I don't remember the name of that. Beautiful something.
So, the Picnic at Hanging Rock, I can't sort of remember any of the key actors in it, but they'd be pretty old by now.
Yeah.
But that was So
grumpy old actors.
Tell us in the comments section about. I'm sorry, we're being a little bit parochial this week. About any Australian movies that you sort of enjoyed, or whether you think Australian movies are rubbish. Yeah. I think there was a period, probably in the late '80s, early '90s, that after the success of Mad Max and Crocodile Dundee. There were some Australians that in the movie industry who thought their shit didn't stink, and thought they were a bit good, and it's dived a bit since then.
Now, On the Beach, from the novel by Neville Shute, which is one of the best post-apocalypse science fiction novels ever written.
We're all having a bit of a moment.
On the Beach was made in Australia in the 50s.
Made where I lived.
Was it?
A part of it was made in Melbourne, and it starred.
Cliff Robertson?
Ava Gardner.
Yeah.
Ava Gardner, whose famous quote was, she couldn't think of a better place to make a movie about the end of the world. She didn't like Melbourne.
Yeah, okay. Actresses are hard to please.
Yes, especially Ava Gardner.
My God, that Neville Shute, I tip my hat to that guy. That novel, and the movie is very good, the movie adaptation of that.
Or that would have been made in the 50s?
Yes. Yeah.
It was in black and white.
Yeah, because it was still, we didn't really know what a nuclear apocalypse would look like, so Neville Shute assumed it would look like a afternoon soap opera in Australia, and that you would have all these wealthy people indulging their hobbies and screwing each other's wives. that's what it would look like. And that's what he wrote. He wrote
that's Melbourne.
A Peyton place set in Melbourne after the apocalypse.
And the beach that they sort of go to is called, the actual beach is called Canadian Bay Beach, which is still there. In fact, last time I was in Australia, I went down to Canadian Bay Beach. Not because of on the beach, but because it was the nearest beach and my sister was bored and wanted to get me out of the house. And just to finish today, I was going to ask you, and we'll ask you as well, apropos of absolutely nothing, what is your favourite movie? This is going to be a hard one.
Die Hard.
The first one?
Yeah, well, of course. Yeah, the rest are shit. But yeah, the first one, an unbelievable movie. The story behind that movie, the performance that Bruce Willis delivers, the performance that Alan Rickman delivers, my God, the stunts, the action, the pace, the editing of that movie. It is a perfect movie.
Who was the director?
Pakala? Alan Pakala? Oh, I forget. But it was written for, who was supposed to do it? It was written for Sinatra.
Oh, really?
That role was written for Frank Sinatra, but in the time it took for him to get the movie made, he aged out of the role. So then he just gave up the script.
I can't see Frank Sinatra.
No, but it's a sequel. The movie of Die Hard is made from a book, which is the sequel of a book, which was made into a movie that starred Frank Sinatra, and he had a big hit with it. So he commissioned a script be written for the sequel.
He would have just played it too seriously.
Oh, yeah. And then
Bruce Willis was great.
After he backed out, they offered it to Schwarzenegger. They offered it to Sly Stallone. They offered it to Charles Bronson. Everybody turned it down. That's why they ended up with this nobody who didn't look like an action hero from the 80s. He wasn't cut. He wasn't buff. He was a little bit, out of shape.
But he'd risen to prominence on the TV series Moonlight,
which he was still filming in the daytime while they filmed Die Hard at night.
I love moonlighting.
He does that on no sleep. He went for like 5 weeks sleeping in his chair on the set between takes. What Bruce Willis does, the chemistry between Willis, they only have one scene together. Bruce Willis and Alan Rickman. They only have one scene together, and the chemistry between them just crackles, which is a counterpoint to his relationship with the actress Bonnie Bedelia, who plays his wife. There's nothing there. These two people, he does everything he does. He kills 8 or 10 people. He jumps off the roof of a skyscraper to save his wife. And when he's finally in his wife's arms, you can tell these are just two actors who just met, because they don't have any scenes together except the very end of the movie where they hug. And there's nothing there. They just met. These two people just met.
But despite that, it's still your favorite movie.
Oh, God, yes, by far. And I'm anti-gun. I am anti-Second Amendment, anti-gun. But that's cartoon violence in that movie. When the Chinese guy who was the stunt coordinator for the movie, and he's getting set up to kill the cops, and he notices that he's leaning over a cabinet full of candy bars. And he takes a candy bar, he puts down his gun, and he takes a candy bar, and he eats a candy bar, and then he picks up his gun. It's fun. It's just nobody's really dying, right? Even in the end, the big bad, Goodenough, the ballet dancer, he's dead. He gets up out of a black body bag to shoot at the hero. It's not real death. Nobody's really dying in this thing, so you don't take it seriously.
Steve, settle down. Your blood pressure's starting to get higher.
Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry, folks.
Some people have described it as a Christmas movie.
Yeah,
is it a Christmas movie?
Hell yes.
Okay.
I am firmly on the side of yes.
All right.
Die Hard is my favorite Christmas movie, and I love It's a Wonderful Life. But Die Hard is just a wonderful Christmas movie. And a Beethoven movie. At the end of it, who doesn't remember? Bum 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 ba da dum bum 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 ba da dum, as billions of dollars are coming down like snow. Oh, yes, Beethoven. Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Whew.
Ode to Joy.
Just you're perspiring.
I love that movie.
Sure,
I love that. I was
does.
perspiring when you got here. I will be perspiring after you leave.
Now, a bit of a downer, but my favourite movie. Well, it's not. There's your favourite movie, then there's the best movie.
Oh
that
yeah,
you
I'm
like.
sorry, Tim. Tim, what's your favourite movie? I missed my cue again.
Sure. The movie that affected me, and it's a deadly serious movie, but one I couldn't get out of my seat for 15 minutes. It's just like, and there were other people in the audience who were in the same situation, was Schindler's List, which is an extraordinary piece of movie making.
Yeah.
And I remember watching it. I mean, it's like gut-wrenching. The whole, 3 hours.
Yep.
Made in black and white, except for one scene where we see that sliver of red.
Yeah.
But that movie, I'm not sure if it wasn't the most enjoyable movie, but it's the movie that affected me the most.
Yeah, it's one of those movies you can watch once. And
Yeah,
you remember it the rest of your life, but you have no desire to go back.
Don't want to see it again.
No desire to go back.
And we're so lucky these days. There is
moving.
Yeah. But I mean, I love Die Hard. I love the second one too. He was I can't remember who that guy was, the baddie. And I love the James
Jeremy
Bond
Irons,
movies.
wasn't it?
Jeremy Irons, yeah.
As Alan Rickman's younger brother.
What? Well, I can't ask your favourite Alan Rickman movie because obviously it's Die Hard. But I loved him in Galaxy Quest.
Yes, Galaxy Quest is a very
playing
good
Alan Rickman.
Yeah, it's a wonderful, wonderful movie. Galaxy Quest is wonderful.
Yes.
I will say Severus Snape is one of the most fascinating characters in English literature, and his performance as Severus Snape, which is a linchpin role. It
Harry
is more,
Potter.
Yeah, Severus Snape is more important than Harry Potter or Dumbledore or anybody else in that movie. He is the one who drives the whole plot. We find out in the last chapter. What J.K. Rowling does with plot and character development is just not to be believed. Her prose is deathly dull. But what she does with plot and character development, nobody, maybe George R.R. Martin.
There's going to be a sequel, apparently. Harry Potter's coming back.
Well, it came back as the Beasts movie, the what is it? With that guy.
Well, I think, there's going to be
guy, Alan Redmayne.
Daniel Radcliffe might be coming back. I don't
Really?
know.
As an adult Harry? Meh.
Probably won't work.
Meh. I could see a prequel. I could see Dumbledore School Days. I could see that, where all the characters we knew as faculty are teens or preteens. I would watch that.
Could be the young Maggie Smith. That'd be
Yeah, right.
hard
Wouldn't
one to
you?
play.
Don't you think every actress in the UK would kill to play the young Maggie Smith?
Sure.
Hell yeah.
I'd kill to play the young Maggie Smith.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd give it a shot. The young Alan Rickman. Oh, I can't play young anybody anymore.
He's a superb actor.
But yeah, the sequels about the prequels about the beasts, the magical beasts, and where to find them with Alan Redmayne. That was a cynical money grab. I was so disappointed in her. I idolized that woman for years and years and years, and for her to do that, I just thought it was. I don't know. It's like Van Gogh painting endless windmills just to sell them. I don't know. All right. Sorry.
I am going to the Van Gogh exhibition up in Bangkok next week.
Really?
Yes.
Is that the big room-sized thing where they do the immersive? You walk through his paintings?
Sure.
Really?
I'll tell you what it's like.
Okay.
I'd take you with me, but it is so friggin' expensive to fly to Bangkok at the moment.
I don't want to go to Bangkok for any reason. So
Wow.
Thank you. You take pictures. You show me pictures.
I'll take some photos.
I
for
don't.
you.
I don't have any desire to ever see Bangkok.
It's
again.
sort of the Van Gogh experience, and it's on until July
my
at
Dutch friends.
Icon Siam. Thanks. Look, we won't talk about movies again. That
Yeah.
was sort of the once off.
Yeah.
But we got it out of our system.
I promise.
There are. I could talk about favourite movies all day, but I won't.
Yeah. Me too.
Thanks very much.
Oh, thank you. Oh, shit, it's over.
Thanks.
Tim, thank you. I appreciate the invitation. I love doing this. I really do.
You say that.
No, I do.
And if you want to see more of Steve doing Steve stuff, then you can go to his YouTube channel. There is a link in the description in this video. And if you do go there, subscribe. Because let's face it, nobody else does.
No. I just crossed 2,000 subscribers. I was very
Whoa!
pleased and flattered. Thank you.
Well
Thank
done,
very much.
you.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, well, it's this show. I was stuck at about 1,500 forever. And this show, I look at my analytics and every Sunday, blip, blip, blip. So I'm very, very, very grateful.
90%,
Grateful to you.
10%.
Yes, yes.
And of course, you can subscribe to this channel as well. And we do this every Sunday. It is our joy. There is a chance next week. Oh, God. There might be a third grumpy with us. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Maybe.
Yeah.
Because we'd like to have a few guest grumpies from time to time to come and share our grumpy.
Be sure and tell me beforehand what his spirit animal is so I can get a third floaty back here.
Are you suggesting my spirit animal is a yellow duck?
Well, not if you don't like it, sir. Boss. No.
If
What,
you're going to
I'm
hang
in
an inflatable toy representing me, you could get something a little bit more, I don't know, regal?
All right, I'll look for my Prince Charles floating here.
So that's Steve Ross with an E. I'm Tim Newton without an Authie. And we'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.
Thank you very much. See you next week.